What's up, guys, family? Welcome and welcome back. My name is Lydia-Deborah. I make DIY and thrift related videos, so like and subscribe to support and stay up to date. This is the pattern we worked on last week, so if you haven't checked that video yet, here's the link. There you go. So I'm starting off by folding my fabric twice such that I have 4 layers of fabric. Next, I'm taking my pattern piece and I'm laying it on my fabric and I'm going to pin it down before I start to cut. You can skip the pinning part. I've seen people do it and with success, but I don't have the same success doing it. So if you're a beginner, I highly suggest that you use them pins. Just stay on the safe side. All right, and once I've got that done, I'm going to cut my pattern or my fabric out in the shape of my pattern. Be sure to not cut the paper because that is going to potentially ruin your cutting scissors. I have learned this the hard way when I was a child, when I used my mom's sewing scissors for things other than cloth, like my toenails. So I'm cutting that fold there because we don't want that. And voila, here are my 2 pattern pieces for the back side of my bikini bottoms. All right, the next step that you need to do is pin the fabric with the right sides together. All right, the right sides together. Make sure you get that right. All right, and then you're going to pin that. You're going to pin the sides and the top, just the sides and the top, because that's where we're going to be sewing first and applying our elastic. So yeah, once again, pin it. Don't go to the swim. Oh, drum time. Soca, mass. All right, back to the pinning. Yeah, so you're seeing what I'm doing. Now I'm just trimming the excess fabric. Really and truly wasn't excess fabric, it's just that I did a shitty job pinning, so try to do a better job than me. Now do the exact same thing with your 2 front pattern pieces. Make sure you lay them on top of each other, right sides together, pin, and here, see me putting that mark there. I'm going to explain why later on. You will see why we did that, but it's important and it's going to help you to get a nice finish. All right, so now you have your back and your front pieces pinned together, and you're going to sew the following: the sides and the top. All right, so to my sewing machine. I almost said Batmobile. Anyway, I like to start off sewing about a centimeter before I start to add my elastic. That way when I'm sewing the pieces together, as you will see later on in the video, it's less chunky. Yeah, it's less chunky when you have that elastic there from the very beginning point of the fabric. And I'm just going to sew that on all the way down. And you see here, as I get to the bottom, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut the elastic about a centimeter away from the edge of my crotch line, just there, for the same reason. When I sew my 2 crotch pieces together, I don't want it to be very bulky. I don't want that seam to be chunky and bulky, just as seamless as I can possibly get it. Now at the front, I've also cut the elastic about 1 centimeter away from that middle point that we marked earlier. And when I've sewn over the elastic, I'm going to change to a straight stitch and continue inching my way towards that mark. And when I get to the mark with the needle in the cloth, I'm going to lift the presser foot and pivot. Pivot! Pivot! Then I continue sewing the elastic on with a zigzag stitch once again. Here's how it looked. I ended up missing the middle part, but yeah, not the back piece. When I'm sewing my elastic on at the top, I'm going to leave just about this much, I'd say about 2 inches or so, open. I'm not going to sew that part closed. It's going to be open because no, I'm going to turn the front inside out, or actually it's right side out, because we're going to fit it into the back part. And that's the reason why you want to leave the hole in the back part, because it's always going to be easier to fit the smaller piece into the bigger piece. No use trying to force the bigger piece into the smaller piece. Here I'm trimming the ends so that I have a 90-degree angle. You can see that it's sort of at a 45-degree angle and you want it to just be straight. And if you watch my previous video, you will know why. So I like to do this part using a safety pin. I just find that it's that much easier to get it in there. Small pin does juke hard. Anyway, See me putting it in there. And if you watched the video where I drafted the pattern and you watched the part where I talked about the mistakes, see, I did it there again where I have this angle and I don't want that. That's why I cut it off, because I want those edges to be a straight 90-degree angle, nothing else. And now I'm fitting the next side, or I'm pulling the next side through. And you want to make sure that everything is as flattened as possible in there, that the fabric of the front piece is not twisted, because trust me, you don't want it to be twisted, and then you sew it together and you turn it back to the right side and that's when you discover that it's twisted. I've made that mistake and it sucks. So I'm pinning this part here together, and then I am going to proceed to sew them together using a straight stitch. Oh, I forgot to mention that when you're sewing the elastic onto your fabric pieces, you're going to use a zigzag stitch. Do not use a straight stitch when you're sewing on your elastic. But for this part here, you can use a straight stitch. That's absolutely fine. So now I'm turning it back to the right side, and as you can see, it's nicely stitched together. Very nice. So now we need to connect to the crotches. So just look at what I'm doing. I'm turning the entire thing, or I'm pushing the entire bikini in. I mean, just watch. All right, and now I'm going to just line up the two crotches, just like I did with the sides. Just line that up like so. Make sure you have no folds. Make sure it's nice and smooth. Pin it, and once again, take it to the sewing machine and do a straight stitch. Kind of looks like a ball sack. Yeah, so here's where that little hole comes in handy. This is what is going to enable you to pull the entire thing through and turn it right side out. All right, so look at this. Look at that. You're almost done. All you need to do is to stitch that hole closed, and you can just do that using a straight stitch. You don't have to do you don't have to use a zigzag stitch for this part. It's best that you use a straight stitch, so it's, you know, as invisible as possible. And here it is. This is our pair of high-waisted bikini bottoms, but don't leave just yet. Let me show you how it looks on. Okay, here's the end result, and this is it. I hope to see you in next week's video. Until then, take care. Bye bye.